Quick question for you all. How many times have you hesitated before tossing something into the recycle bin? Stood there looking clueless for 10, 15 seconds, possibly even longer, trying to work out where it belongs. And as a result, the global waste crisis is fueled in part by confusion around how we sort them, which container, box or bag that we put that item in. And with 86% of plastic packaging never being properly recycled, there's a problem here. And today I want to talk about how technology could play a part in completely removing that uncertainty and also reward consumers for recycling and also helping brands track product life cycles all at the same time. It seems a win-win-win for everyone. And we can thank a company called Bower for doing just that, because they are a groundbreaking app that uses AI-powered object detection, gamification, and real-world incentives to make recycling effortless and even rewarding. And since 2019, the company has helped recycle more than 100 million packages, partnering with more than 500 brands, including Nestlé and Varta. And in doing so, they're closing the loop on sustainability. And my guest today is Berfin Mert, co-founder and COO of Bower. And together, we're going to discuss how AI can transform recycling by identifying materials. We'll also discuss the digital expansion of deposit return systems of all packaging types, how brands can also align sustainability with profitability, and the future of waste. And also the future of waste management, why gamification and financial incentives may hold the key to lasting change. And with Bower scaling 170 plus countries, the question isn't whether tech can drive sustainability, it's how fast we can make it happen. So with the scene set, let's invite today's guest to come on the podcast and talk about all this and much more. So thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. Can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. So my name is Berfin Mert, and I'm the co-founder and COO of Bower, which is a social enterprise that is on a mission to give all packaging a value and essentially create a world free from trash.
And it is such a great mission that you're on here, something that I applaud. And every day on this podcast, I try and get listeners thinking differently about the impact that technology can have, not only on our life and in our work, but also indeed on the world, the planet that we all reside on here. So the global waste crisis, obviously that remains a significant challenge. And a big stat here, I recently read that 86% of plastic packaging is not sorted and 10 billion packages are produced daily. So my big question to you to set the scene today is, how are you at Bower using technology to transform consumer behaviour and enable a more circular packaging system without the need to build new expensive infrastructure?
So first of all, the mere fact that less than 14% of the world's plastic gets collected today for recycling, and even less actually getting recycled, it's not only a problem, but I would say a shame, honestly, because we've had the solution in front of our eyes for decades. So many of us here in Europe are familiar with the deposit schemes for PET bottles. And basically means that you return the PET bottles to these reverse vending machines and you get rewarded. And in Sweden, this has dramatically increased the recycling rates from less than 20% to more than 90%. And this goes for almost all cases where you've introduced RVMs and deposit schemes for PET bottles. So we've always thought, if incentivizing people financially works so wonderfully in increasing recycling rates, why don't we introduce the system for all packages? So that's what we've done in developing this solution, the mobile app that rewards the proper sorting of all consumer packaging at regular recycling bins. So basically, we're making use of already existing infrastructure. And how it works is that you simply scan your packaging. It can be either your milk carton or ketchup bottle or whatever. You scan it after consumption, take it to your closest recycling bin. And once there, our app will recognize through GPS that you're close to that recycling bin and reward you for everything that you leave there. And these rewards can be either cash to your bank account, you can use the money to donate to different charity organizations, or use discounts on the different products listed in the app. So that's what we do at Bower.
It's incredibly cool. And I think one of the things that really stood out to me is there's a lot of hype around artificial intelligence at the moment, but you're encouraging people to think bigger than using AI to improve an email or a Word document. And at Bower, you're leveraging AI-powered object detection and gamification to ultimately make recycling engaging, fun, and accessible. So how are you seeing this technology reducing confusion around waste sorting? Because that's something that we see a lot. And also, what impact has it had on user behavior and CO2 savings so far? Anything you can share around that and the impact that you're having with this technology?
Of course. So reducing confusion around waste sorting is part of what drives the impact for Bower. So we inform and educate users in terms of material type, how to recycle their packaging, where to recycle their packaging. However, I would say the main impact driver is really the financial incentives and the gamified experience that we've built around the recycling activity to make it feel less like a chore and more like an engaging, encouraging thing to do. And also by really showcasing what an impact people are actually having when recycling. So we show the CO2 savings in pretty concrete and tangible measures, like equaling it with, say, hours of vacuum cleaning or other things that you can really touch on and really feel the impact that you're having. But in terms of the total impact that we've had so far is we've helped recycle more than 100 million packages since we started 2019. And we're especially proud about our so-called additionality numbers. So basically, over 30% of the packages that go through our system would not have been recycled had it not been for our app. So that's really an uplift that we're incredibly proud of.
And you mentioned some big stats there that show a real measurable impact that you're making with technology. And another one that I read before I came on the podcast today, that your app has achieved, I think, something like a 32% uplift in sorting rates, all through real-time, location-specific guidance. And I've got to ask, as this is a tech podcast, how critical has AI been? What kind of role has that played in delivering results like this? And what role does real-time data play in improving overall recycling accuracy too?
So we implemented AI just last year, and before the implementation of AI, our app could only detect packages through their barcodes. However, now with the implementation of AI and image recognition, we can now detect also packages that lack a barcode. So it could be a coffee cup or batteries or vapes, which of course has helped then increase the sorting rates. And this independence from barcodes is what will allow us to go beyond household recycling to also target litter that often ends up in nature. So so many of the items polluting oceans and landscape are packages or stuff that doesn't have a barcode. So it can be plastic straws, cigarette butts, fishing nets, you name it. And we're really happy to be able, through image recognition and AI, be able to also detect and reward the proper sorting of those articles.
And I think traditionally deposit return systems have often been limited to specific types of packaging. So how does Bower's digital approach, how does that expand this model to include all packaging? And we will have an international audience today, people listening in 165 countries, but even more impressive that I see that your solution is scalable across more than 170 countries. So we're 5 short here, but anything you can share around that?
Yeah, so the traditional deposit return schemes, they really do work. The only problem with them is that they're limited. So they only cover certain items, say like PET bottles, and that leaves billions of packages without incentives to be recycled. And so what we at Bower then has done is that we had digitalized the deposit system, and we make use then of the established regular recycling bins, as I mentioned. So instead of relying on these expensive reverse vending machines, what we have done is that we've sort of turned every recycling bin into a deposit station where users can scan items and earn rewards. So since we're making use of the recycling bins, and the recycling bins are not sort of exclusive to certain packaging types, we are not sort of exclusive to certain packaging types either. So instead, we can include everything: plastic, glass, metal, paper, you name it. Everything that goes to recycling bin can also get rewarded for sorting. And it's also the fact that we're not making use of any new sort of infrastructure or any hardware. It's that's making us so scalable, and what's enabled us to sort of open the app to more than 170 countries.
And your technology and what you're doing here is just absolutely phenomenal. But of course, you can't do it all on your own. And one of the other things that stood out to me was that you work with more than 500 brands, including some pretty big names like Nestle and Varta, to name but a few, but also helping them align their sustainability goals with consumer engagement. So how do those collaborations contribute to building this truly circular economy, which appears to be the mission that you're on? And have you faced any challenges in bringing brands on board, and how do you win over them and get them on board?
How we're actually incentivizing recycling and giving rewards out to our users is through the brands that sort of finance our solution. So they connect their packages to our deposit scheme and pay an annual fee to be able to do that. So that's really how the whole business model is working for us. And we're quite dependent on the brands taking the responsibility. And when it comes to the brands, they know that they need to take a greater responsibility for their packaging, and they've got quite some pressure, both from consumers, but also from regulations that keep on increasing. However, so far, many of the brands have been very sort of focused on improving the materials of their packaging and making them recyclable. However, it doesn't really matter how recyclable your packaging is if it doesn't get collected for recycling. And that's where Bower comes into the picture, in really making sure that people leave the packages to the recycling bins. And I would say what has been challenging apart from that in connecting brands is also the fact that many brands will argue that many of their packages are already getting recycled, but that doesn't really match the actual figures. Like in Sweden, where we're so very like in the front and so eco-conscious, we would think that everyone is recycling, but still less than 20% of the plastic gets recycled. So there is a mismatch between what's actually happening and what brands think is happening to their packages. And I think the reason for that is there's no one really tracking how many of the brand's packages that actually gets recycled today.
And of course, the circular economy that we're talking about here, it does rely on cross-industry cooperation as well. And I'm sure you've also encountered a few frustrations and challenges along the way. So let's try and shine a light on those for a moment. What role do you think, I don't know, policymakers, tech platforms and brands should be playing in supporting solutions like Bower and others? And how can collaboration accelerate this transition and reach these goals that we're talking about?
I believe they can all help, and I think every one of them are necessary in order to turn things around. So collaboration is, of course, key. When it comes to policymakers, I would honestly just wish for them to dare to be a bit stricter in their regulations and not just encourage sustainable action, but actually require it. So that's one thing. When it comes to to the tech platforms, we've received quite some help actually from both Google and Apple when they've used their platforms to sort of promote our solution. And your platform is, of course, one of those supporting ones that we're really grateful for. So thank you for that. And when it comes to brands, I would really wish for them to not only focus on the short-term financial gains, but also see the greatness that can come from thinking a bit more long-term and investing in circular solutions. And I would say the future of recycling, it's not only policy-driven or tech-driven or anything else driven, but it's something that needs to be done from everyone. I think in our quest to sort of find the perfect solution, we let very good ones go to waste. And let's not do that.
And I think at a time where every business is more concerned with the bottom line, I think it's so important to highlight in our conversation today that it doesn't need to be a binary choice between we need to watch the bottom line or make a difference. We can't do both. That is not true. Your model demonstrates that sustainability and profitability can coexist. I mean, you've over 100 million packages recycled since 2019 is phenomenal. So how does incentivizing consumers with real world rewards, how does that drive longer term engagement, and how do brands benefit from participating? Because I think it's a great thing to highlight here, because you're making such a big difference, and it's proving that these two worlds can coexist.
So thank you for those words. And I would say, to answer the question on how brands benefit from participating, initially it was really only the sustainability sort of part that we were offering them. So we believe that sustainability alone would attract the brands, thinking that the ability to sort of take greater responsibility for their packages would be enough. However, we quite soon realized that really didn't seem to be the case, that sustainability, yes, it is important, but it's not always a strong enough value proposition unless sort of regulations require actions, as I mentioned before. So, and also, in fact, when it comes to sustainability matters, it can sometimes be an even harder sell, since companies are so afraid of being accused of greenwashing. So they're sort of they're afraid of trying new things in that space. So how we've overcome this is by broadening the value proposition from only sustainability to also include marketing tools and consumer insights. So through our app, brands can, for instance, offer cashbacks on their products to drive loyalty and also market penetration. So I think to find these other means also, apart from pure sustainability, has been key in getting the brands on board.
And before you came on the podcast, I also read that you've received, I think it was a €1.7 million grant from Google to enhance your AI technology. So with all that in mind, the extra funding, the work that you're doing and looking ahead, what advancements are you planning, and how do you see Bower evolving to further scale your impact on global sustainability efforts? You probably can't share too much about that road ahead, but anything you can?
Yeah, so our plan going forward is just to scale the impact we're having, and that goes partly through improving our AI model to include even more categories, including all these things that end up littering the landscapes and the oceans, so say cigarette butts and plastic straws. But apart from that, just getting more brands on board to be able to finance the rewards to users to a greater extent and in global markets. So when it comes to sort of the vision we have for Bower and the impact we want to have, we want to think about the PET bottles again with deposit values. You rarely see them on the streets in many European markets because they have a value. And we see a world where, what if that could go for also plastic straws and cigarette butts, or trash that gets entangled with birds and fishes? What if trash could become seen as money lying around on the ground just waiting to be picked up? And that, we believe and hope, will become a reality with the help of our solution.
Well, although this is a tech podcast and we're talking about the impact that AI can have on our world and make a real measurable difference and huge impact, I always say at the end of every episode that technology works best when it brings people together. And none of us are able to achieve any degree of success without a little help along the way. And very often it can be somebody that sees something in us, invests a little time, supports us that we don't recognize or shout about enough as we should. So is there a particular person that you're grateful towards throughout your journey, who maybe saw something in you or helped you where you got where you are today, and give them a little shout out? Who would that be and why?
So the one that really clearly comes to my mind is my brother, who's also the co-founder of Bower. So I'm doing this all with him, and it's very much thanks to him that I've even dared to take the step of creating something new. I used to be very risk aversive, very used to just going the traditional path. And he's the one that's given me the comfort in taking this very untraditional road and much more risky path. And it's just a joy, such a joy to be working alongside him. And we're having so much fun, and it's the biggest blessing, honestly.
Oh, I love it. And a beautiful moment to end on. A quick shout out to your brother there. I love what you're doing here. And for anyone listening, maybe they want to dig a little bit deeper on anything we talked about, maybe want to be a part of your mission or just find out more information. Where would you like to point everyone listening?
Well, so first of all, it would be wonderful if they would like to try out the app and just, get rewarded for recycling. So we're available on both iOS and Android. So just download the Bower app. Other than that, you can always check out our website. We're called Get Bower there, not Bower. So getbower.com, and also available on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, all the social media.
Awesome. I'll get that added, all those links added to the show notes so people can find you nice and easily. And just on behalf of everyone listening around the world and maybe downloading that app while listening to our conversation today, what regions are you serving at the moment, and where are you planning on serving in the future?
So we're basically already active all around the world right now. The only thing that differs is sort of the amount of rewards that we're able to give out in the different countries. So the biggest rewards are able to be received in the Nordic markets in UK, and we have an intent to keep on scaling that also in the other markets outside of Nordics and UK.
Awesome. Well, a big stat that we mentioned earlier on there, 86% of plastic packaging is currently unsorted. 10 billion packages are produced daily, many ending up in nature there. So there's so much big work that we can do. And I just love what you're doing here in using tech as a driver of behavioural change, and in a way that helps both people using the products and also the brands as well that are producing the products. Great stuff. I can't thank you enough for coming on here and sharing your story today. I'd love to get you back on later in the year or early next year, see how things are progressing. But thanks for sharing your story today.
Thank you, Neil. I really, really appreciate this. Thank you so much.
The conversation around recycling is changing, and Bower is proving that technology can accelerate sustainability at scale. And if I had an app that I could open on my phone and even clear up rubbish of other people that they've left behind or making things look untidy and be rewarded for doing that, I'm going to do it. And I would imagine that other people would do that too. And I do think that recycling confusion has been a major barrier. Even people that want to do the right thing have maybe got a meal deal with a can, a bottle, a packet of sandwiches, a bag of crisps. Knowing where you put all those items when faced with 5 or 6 different places to put them can be confusing. But Bower's AI-powered object detection is helping consumers instantly identify what can and what can't be recycled. And deposit return systems, it shouldn't just be limited to plastic bottles. So I love how Bower is digitalising the model to include all packaging types, including existing infrastructure. The main takeaway from our conversation, and possibly the most powerful one, is removing that binary thought process. Sustainability and profitability can coexist. And with over 500 brands already on board, proving that financial incentives drive real engagement, what are we waiting for? AI-driven sorting, tracking and gamification are changing the way that both consumers and businesses think about waste. But the bigger question is, can tech finally solve the global waste crisis? With companies like Bower continuing to lead the way, we might just get there sooner than you think. But let's keep the conversation going. Tech blog writer at outlook.com, LinkedIn, Instagram and X, just at Neil C. Hughes. Nice and easy to find. So any experiences you'd like to share, let me know. But it's time for me to go now. I've taken up far too much of your time. I don't want to be that guy that hangs around a party just that little bit too long. So I will make my excuses and leave and return again tomorrow. Speak with you all then. Bye for now.